Hey, welcome to Everyday Christian Women, where we can connect with other women and look for God in our day-to-day lives. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm Amy, and I'm just really glad that you decided to join me for this first episode of this new adventure. I have been reminded that I need to tell you today is my 6th wedding anniversary and also my 39th birthday. So thank you for being here to celebrate with me. Additionally, in the Hobbit tradition of birthdays, I will be the one giving the gift. If you will notice, there are not one but 2 episodes today. And this first one is an introduction. I do hope you'll listen because it tells you a lot about me and about the podcast. But the other episode is what you can expect week to week in content. Let's get started with what are we even doing here? How did this come to be? So I want to tell you a little bit about my best friend. She and I have been friends for 33 years. Pretty incredible to hang on to someone that long. And she and I spend a lot of mornings just talking about everything and nothing and getting through our days together. We do housework, we run errands, we go to Walmart, and people probably think we're crazy because we'll be on our Bluetooth talking to each other and look like we're talking to ourselves. We discovered a long time ago that it was way easier to get through all of the tedious day-to-day things if we had somebody to share it with. And so from that, the idea for Everyday Christian Women was born, because all of us seem to feel so isolated and so alone. When I do meet new women, those are the things that we talk about the most, how we just feel like there's no one else to do day-to-day life with us. And that doesn't need to be how it is. It isn't how it's supposed to be. We also tend to feel like we are living our faith in just the faith-based places, the churchy kind of places. You know, we go to worship service on Sunday, maybe we go to a Bible study, and maybe even a Christian women's book club, or we get involved in community service. And those are all wonderful things. I am not suggesting that you don't do those. But in our day-to-day mundane lives, it seems really hard to see, how am I living out my faith? You know, how do I see God in making my bed every morning and washing all the dishes and putting them away? You know, those job security tasks that they never end. But it can feel like our faith functions in a bubble and that we just don't see God in all of it. Maybe it's a little easier when we talk about feeding our family, preparing those meals. We can see that as glorifying God, but maybe not some of the boring things. So that's some of what we're going to work on seeing over the next weeks, months, however long you guys stick with me and decide to be a part of this. And I should absolutely point out that my wonderful husband gave me a shove. Everyday Christian Women came out of his desire to see me use the gifts that God gave me, not just to glorify him, though that is the main purpose, but to also fulfill something for myself. The things that we've been given that we are good at, that we are passionate about, God gave us for a reason. And the main reason is to bring him glory. That is our best use of our gifts. But in that, we also get to be something more of ourselves. We spend so much of our time in achieving everyone else's goals and dreams. And again, I don't think that there's anything wrong with working for a company and earning your living and supporting the work that they do in your community. But there is something to be said for doing something that builds our dreams, in doing the things that we love and that make us feel more complete. Those are the reasons that I'm here, but who am I? You know, why listen to me? So I am a Christian mom and a wife from a little town in Nebraska. I have lived in Nebraska for a large part of my life, but I have not always been here. I also have traveled a lot. My first husband was a soldier, and so I got to see a lot of the United States and the world. I'm currently a stay-at-home mom, but I haven't always been. There have been different periods in my life where I've had that wonderful gift and distinction, but I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a working single mom. I've been a mom with kids who don't live at home. And we will get into all of that. You are going to find out more about me over the episodes that we get into and how that has affected my faith and my life. I had a career path at one point, not in the far distant past, that I enjoyed very much and really thought for a while that I was going to pursue and that was going to be what I did with my life. And then it wasn't. And I found that that wasn't where I was called to be, and it wasn't where I was fulfilled. Quite frankly, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, working way too many hours and not a very pleasant person to be around. And I didn't want that for myself or my family. I've been married and divorced, as I said. I'm remarried now. I have a blended family. It's been a challenge. It still is a challenge sometimes, but we're getting through it. There's a lot you learn from that too. I tell everyone the best thing about a failed first marriage is all the things you learn not to do if you remarry. We learned a lot of lessons, my husband and I, and we want to share some of those with you too. I live a life of faith now, but I spent a lot of years wandering around pretending I didn't need God, and I sometimes even doubted if he existed, or if he did exist, that did he care about me, or could I even possibly come back from all of the things that I had done, all of the ways that I had walked away from him. I've read the story of the prodigal son since I was a kid, and how amazing it was that this son came back and his father welcomed him back. But I think it's easy to feel like that can't apply to me, that I've gone too far and God couldn't possibly welcome me back. But again, as we go on, you're going to find that God uses our failings to glorify him. We are the absolute expression of God's grace, and we can show that to the world through admitting how we have fallen away and how we have fallen on our faces. And I will tell anyone who will listen that there were years of my life that I was an absolute train wreck. I learned a lot from that too. That's going to be a reoccurring theme. How much I have learned from doing things the wrong way. I once heard it expressed that God will continue to give you the lesson until you learn it. And I've got to tell you that as good as I was in school, sometimes it takes me a long time to learn those life lessons. So come with me. Maybe you'll feel a little bit better about the things that it's taken you some time to learn. Maybe you won't feel so alone in some of the mistakes that you've made, because I also don't do things halfway. If I'm going to mess up, I'm going to mess up big. So to go on, I have 4 sons, 2 who are adults, 1 in high school, and 1 middle schooler, and an 8-month-old baby daughter with my second husband. And let me tell you, everyone in the family thinks that she hung the moon. She is the absolute favored sibling at the moment. Her brothers adore her. Her parents adore her. Our main goal at this point is to love her, but also to make sure that she does not end up spoiled by all of the adoring attention. I love my kids and my family. I love reading. I read voraciously. I cannot wait to share with you some of the book reviews and discussions of these deep books that I get into, but also I just like to read for fun. So you're going to hear about some of the books that maybe don't have as much depth, but God made us to enjoy things as well. It doesn't all have to be serious. Yes, we can find God in everything, but we don't have to try so hard. Sometimes the best part of anything is just that we got some enjoyment out of it. Life is really, really hard, and it can get you down, and it can seem like there's just no fun in it. The day-to-day routines can seem so tedious. so monotonous. We do the same things over and over again. We need a break. We need something to just make us smile. So one of those things is I love to read. I also am a writer, and I start wonderful writing projects. I have brilliant ideas that then languish for years incomplete. That is one of the reasons that my husband really wants me to use these talents. He said, if you're not going to write it, then you may as well talk. From him, it sounds like a compliment, so that's how I'm going to take it. I have all the craziness of raising kids in these different stages of life, and it's quite the experience. They teach me as much, if not more, than I teach them. I have been involved in several children's ministries. It's something I have a passion for. I haven't had as much time lately for children's ministry because having an 8-month-old baby is pretty all-consuming. I love to do crafts, all kinds of crafts. I have a craft cupboard that is bursting at the seams with all of the various things that I have tried or do now and again. So we'll talk about some of those things. Maybe you'll find something you're interested in. I will try to give you resources whenever I talk about these things so that you can go find more information, but absolutely feel free to reach out to me and ask more questions. I will admit I am not much of a teacher. You are probably not going to see videos from me showing you how to do these things. It's not my forte. But I am more than happy to point you in the right direction. I love to get involved in my community. I don't have as many opportunities for that at this point, but man, I jump on them if I can. I feel like it's a great way to give back and to be involved, to have more people physically in my life. Travel is one of my passions. I've really hooked my husband into traveling a lot. I get the wanderlust from my parents. I used to joke that strangers who heard about where we have been and where we all come from wondered if my family were gypsies. We are not. However, we are a military family, so that affects things greatly. If you've ever been part of a military family, you know what I am talking about. If you're not, that's perfectly fine, and we just all seem a little weird. And we are, but that's not the reason. More than anything, I love to learn something new. I want to hear other people's thoughts and opinions and challenge the way that I look at the world. I'm currently reading a book right now with thoughts and opinions that really are challenging to me. And I will for sure get into that book with you later, because the ones that are hard, the ones that I almost don't want to read, are some of the most important ones. If we only ever talk to people who think like us, we only ever read things that confirm what we already think, and we only listen to the voices that say what we want to hear, we're not learning anything. We're not expanding. We're not growing. No one should exist in an echo chamber. It is so unhealthy. So come along with me, learn these crazy new things with me. One more thing that I just started doing, my mom got me hooked on stamp collecting. It really appeals to my desire to organize everything. And you'll notice that as we talk about housework and crafts, and everything has to do with organization. I'm a list person, and we will get into all of that. That's about me. We've gone over a little bit of what we're going to talk about in the podcast. The short answer is everything. Let's talk about everything. Our lives are varied and they are exciting, even if they sometimes don't seem exciting. We're just going to share everything. And I want to hear back from you and hear what you want to talk about. This is not just me talking to myself. Right now, this is solo. You're only going to hear me, but I am going to take a lot of questions. I am going to take a lot of suggestions, discuss things that you want to talk about that I'm interested in, just like any conversation with a good friend. That's what we're aiming for here. So let me know. But eventually, I am hoping that we are going to have some guest interviews. You're going to get to hear from some people from various different walks of life. I'm really looking forward to some of these, but that's something that I'm new at too. So bear with me. And of course, like I said, book reviews. We'll get into some thoughts on that. You know, there's a lot of causes out there, things that we can get involved in, that we can get behind. But really, what I know now is that there's so much I didn't know. I have learned about so many things by connecting with people, and I really want to share some of those with you. I'm a big champion of hometown missionaries. Absolutely. I think that we should support missionaries overseas, but I think it's important to look right in front of us as well. Who is hurting? Who needs our help? So let's look closer to home, too. There are people for whom life is missionary work in other countries. I have met some. I am great friends with a few. I have heard some of the most amazing stories, but I have also learned so much by looking at the need right in front of me. There is a Casting Crowns song, and we will talk about some musicians that I absolutely love too. This Casting Crowns song says we look at those missionaries and we think wonderful things and we support them, but are we even willing to cross the street for the people who need us here? And I want to be that person. So let's talk about the things that we can do in our own communities, maybe small things. But one of the best things I've learned is it's the small things that matter. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is absolutely true. Also, let's inject some humor in our lives. Life needs more laughter. We have so many things to be so serious about. I just want to laugh. I just want to find the smiles in life. Overall, let's figure out how the Bible, how God, and how faith tie into all of these things. Every single thing that I have listed, we can find God in. I use a lot of different versions of the Bible, just depending upon which one reads best for the subject I'm talking about. Sometimes the wording is easier to understand in one version than another. Sometimes I love the beautiful poetic language in specifically the New King James Version. If I don't specify what version of the Bible I'm speaking from, it is almost always going to be the New King James Version. If you think that I am misquoting a Bible verse, or I am taking a passage out of context, or you want to know how on earth I came to find this Bible passage in this version, let me know. I would love to talk about it. It's only been in the last couple years that I have really started looking at all of these different versions, and some of them suit me better than others, and some of them will suit you better than others. But I think the big thing is, let's get into the Bible. Let's find out what relevance it really has in today's world, because I think a lot of people get into the mindset that, yeah, that's great. It's a great story, or even it's great history, but is it really relevant to today? Does it have any purpose in this modern life? How exactly do we find the answers to teaching a kid how to drive, or navigating the complexities of personal relationships in a digital world from a Bible that was written thousands of years ago? And let's take 1 minute to talk about things that I don't want to get into on this podcast. I do not want to talk about politics, and it will become obvious over time what my thoughts are on different issues, and you can make whatever judgments you want about my political affiliation or where I stand, but I don't want to get into politics. It's a nasty arena. It's extremely complex. I grew up in the age where that wasn't something that you talked about, and I certainly don't want to argue about it. I think that people have their reasons, and if that's something you want to talk about, that is fantastic, but this is not the place. I don't want to get into arguing over specific church doctrine or affiliation. There are many denominations out there. I think that there are people who are living their faith in different churches, in different types of churches. Jesus called for us to be unified. He wanted us to be one body. And so tearing each other apart about the specific ways that we worship is not achieving that goal. We can discuss different pieces of doctrine and why people believe or don't believe in them, but I don't need to offer an opinion on them except as how I practice. We're not going to say, well, this church is the right one and this one does all these things wrong. That isn't helpful. That isn't supportive, and it's not constructive. We will not be shaming parents here. As parents, we already feel like we are getting it wrong so much of the time. Social media makes that so much worse. I am grateful that my first 4 kids were raised, that they were itty bitty before social media was such a huge part of our lives. I feel like even now, knowing a lot of these things about parenting, I spend a lot of time hearing other people say that everything I'm doing is wrong. And yes, I can absolutely fight against some of that, but it does start to get inside of you and make you wonder, did I just do it all wrong with the first 4? And the answer to that is they all seem to be decent human beings with a fairly good grasp on life, good habits, and let's look at them and say they're all breathing and doing pretty well. So we don't need to judge parenting, general parenting decisions, or parenting styles. You do what is right for your family. It's one of the few pieces of advice I still give to new parents is, yes, have all of this research, all of this information, hear how people do it, and at the end of the day, you have to do what is right for your family and your children. So let's talk about the things that I've learned or that you've learned about parenting. I have a couple of guests who are going to tell some things about pregnancy, child rearing. I'm really looking forward to talking to them, but this is not about who is right and who is wrong. It is just to have more information about how to do this incredibly hard thing that didn't come with enough instructions. Those kids were not born with a book, and sometimes I wish they were. It would be really great to have the instruction manual on this little girl that I am trying to raise, because she does things that I do not remember from my other kids, and I look at her and think, you are so wonderful, and I have no idea how to do this. She's baby number 5, and I still feel like I have no idea what's going on sometimes. Discussion and conversation enlighten us. They help us find common ground. We need that. We need to understand each other. As a society, as friends, we need to relearn that just because we think differently, it doesn't mean we hate each other. I think that that is such an underlying tone in society that now. If I disagree with you, I absolutely hate who you are. And that's just not true. I don't think that you hate me if you disagree with me, if you think I'm crazy for how I raise my kids. We just think differently, and that is okay. The world is hateful enough. Let's not be a part of that. We are here to support and enjoy one another. We do not hate each other, and we are not likely to agree upon everything. That's just a fact. We are different people with different places we came from and different places that we are hoping to get to in this life. So let's talk about those things. As I wrap up this first episode of this amazing new podcast, thank you so much for being here. If you have stuck with me this long, this is about the length of the podcasts that we are going to have. Each episode is going to run about 30 minutes. I want to leave you with just a few statistics and a couple of thoughts. According to a Pew Research survey, 61% of adults say that having close friends is essential to living a fulfilling life. This is far higher than the shares who say the same thing about being married, which is 23%, having children, 26%, or having a lot of money, 24%. More than double, almost triple the amount of people say having close friends is important. 53% of adults in the US have between 1 and 4 close friends. 38% have 5 or more, but 8% of adults in the United States say they have no close friends. And that is so disheartening. 8% of people feel like they have no one to talk to. And the great thing here is if you are here and you thought you were part of that 8%, you are not anymore. You have friends here. I have never had so many friends that I couldn't use one more. So I am looking forward to getting to know you better. And I have 2 more thoughts to leave you with. First of all, Proverbs 27, verse 9. This is from the Contemporary English Version. The sweet smell of incense can make you feel good, but true friendship is better still. That is something I would like you to take through your day and carry it with you, and just know true friendship is one of the best gifts that God gives us. As you go from here, I want to tell you my personal motto. You're going to hear a lot of it. Above all else, be kind. And this means be kind to others in the world, but also be kind to yourself. I'll talk to you again next Monday. Check out this week's bonus 2nd episode. I can't wait to see you again. Please subscribe so you'll be notified when the next episode is available. Take care until then.